I know. I'm bringing 2 notepads.
I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Nisswa Planning Commission Board of Adjustment for Tuesday, September 2022. Roll call, please.
Gary Harris.
Josh Young.
Dave Reese.
Maggie Wentler.
Bethany Sutherland.
We will now proceed to on-site visits and reconvene at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. It was summertime, a little while ago.
The reason we didn't start at 6 o'clock is that the rest of the planning commission is still out taking on-site visits. There was quite a few of them today, so we'll start a little late, but we didn't forget you. It's not like in college where the teacher is 10 minutes late, you can leave. You could still leave here if you want to, but then you don't get anything done, but they'll be here pretty soon.
We got lost. Huh? We got. It was easy to do. I got lost when I was looking at them too. Are you having a problem there? I guess. It's been one of those days, huh? Yeah.
Who made?
Ready? All right, I would like to reconvene and call the meeting to order for the Nisswa Planning Commission Board of Adjustment for Tuesday, September 6, 2022. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Should we do another roll call?
Oh, sorry, let's let's do a roll call again. We'll start over here.
Tom Pearson, city attorney.
John Jacobson,
Gary Harris.
Josh Young,
John Taylor.
Dave Reese.
Maggie Wetler. Oh, I'm sorry.
City engineer.
Maggie Wetler. Bethany Soderlin.
All right, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No.
Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next, to approve the meeting minutes for August 2nd, 2022. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
No.
Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So move.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Next item is an open forum. Is there anyone present tonight that would like to speak towards something not on the agenda this evening? Moving on to public hearings, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. All right. First item is a variance application 011-22 to obtain a variance from wetland setbacks and for the expansion of a legal non-conforming dwelling within the Shoreline Residential Zoning District. The subject property is located at 6257 County Road 13 PID 282-40567 on Lake Hubert. Owner Mary P. Scott Revocable Trust, applicant Mary Scott and Jesse Templeton. If Mary Scott and Jesse would like to come to the desk here. Bethany, your staff report.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting to obtain a variance from wetland and OHW setbacks for the expansion of a legal non-conforming dwelling with the scrape and rebuild construction of the existing cabin with a 4-foot non-lakeside expansion along the north side of the cabin and a half-story, resulting in a height increase to the structure of a little over 6 feet. The existing dwelling sits 36 feet from the OHW and is 17 feet from type 2 wetlands on the east side of the dwelling. A portion of this dwelling lies within the FEMA flood fringe. This is a unique property in that the applicant will need to meet the federal requirements for the FEMA flood fringe while achieving compliance with the Wetland Conservation Act.
If you would like to make public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. Seeing none, I'll close public comment.
There.
Do I have one? Okay, come on up. Come on up. Go to the podium
Right here.
and state your name and address.
My name is Jim Sheldon. I live at 6255 County Road 13. We're Mary's next door neighbors. My wife and I are here. Our friend Carol Obanis is here. And Mary's builder, Roger Langer, is here. We would like to speak in favor of the variance. We think it's a good use of the property and in a fair way for Mary to be able to come here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll close public comment. Do you want to just describe the project?
Sure.
Thank you.
So what we're trying to do is a slight expansion in order to, well, my family's been on Lake Hubert since 1950. And that's when my parents bought the property. Or shortly before that. And so every summer I grew up there. It's been in the family a long time, 72 plus years. My family, we're 4 generations now, really love the cabin and we'd like to continue that legacy. We are concerned about expanding and yet also respecting the lake, the woods. It's beautiful property and the lake is beautiful. We really want to keep it in good hands through our building project and, doing what we can to try to mitigate any disturbances, that kind of thing. Also, because it's going to be insulated, what that means for me, we've talked about coming at Christmas. I've thought about moving here. It's just a really exciting idea and project for us as a family to be able to utilize this place that we love so much. Let's see what else I want to say. Basically that our family is really committed to the land and every effort will be made to respect the lake, the woods. We want to replant. We really want to do native plants, encourage wildlife, insects, bees, to really, again, try to best use and respect for the land. It was also really hard to consider this project, but the cabin has so many problems now that we've tried to mitigate over the years with trying to fix things. And it's come to a point where it's not possible really to do much more to try to stabilize the cabin. So we are faced with rebuilding, it's such mixed feelings really about building. So we also wanted to consider things like the place where we want to add the second story is the half of the cabin that's less visible from the lake. We've tried to consider a lot of things like that in order to, again, decrease the impact and for the community and neighbors. So do you have any questions for me? Also, my daughter, who's the architect, is on the phone. I'm not sure she.
I can see her.
Okay,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
I'm above you.
hi. So, if anyone
Actually,
has
Mom,
any
I
questions-
would just like to add, so as you know, the hardships for the property, essentially the driveway cuts across the back part of the property and there are thick woods that we'd like to maintain. even where it's not wetland, the backyard where it's free of trees tends to flood during large rain events. So we want to maintain that openness for percolation and stormwater management. And then as my mom mentioned, with this slight increase, it allows our family to use the space year round. And as my job as an architect, I've really tried to choose materials that can blend in to the natural landscape and also minimize that second floor as well, especially from the lakeside, to create, the smallest impact possible.
Okay. Gary, do you have any questions to start off?
No, I think what questions we had were pretty much answered on our site visit, it was more in dealing with the wetland and the expansion of the house there in the fill, and the fill that's gonna be required, but other than that,
Yeah, and just to clarify, there will be no filling in the wetlands directly. That
No,
is a
right,
prohibited
right.
use. This is just a setback issue for that required FEMA flood
Right.
fill.
yeah, all the filling will be in the floodplain, not the wetland.
Correct. So you're
Yeah.
just in
Okay,
the setback.
They're also wanting to move, just as you saw, just a little bit to the west to help move a little further away from the wetland.
Yeah.
So
Bethany, I can't remember, was there a condition regarding the ice ridge, the existing ice ridge? I don't think you plan to do anything with it.
no,
Uh,
the berm, are you talking about the berm in front of the cap?
Yep.
That is always something, that's another place I want to plant more native plants and keep the berm there. I know that it's a really important part of how the lake and the environment work is to have the ice pushes it up, it's there, and one of the reasons we've left it. I mean, it's because it is part of the natural process
Yeah.
that occurs.
It's natural water.
So we're not
retention.
gonna, there's no intention to level that or do anything else with it to keep it as it is.
If you noticed on site, there is that historic ice ridge, and then there's the larger berm. Condition number 3 is the construction of the new dwelling shall be done with regard to ensuring that the integrity of the existing historic ice ridge and berm is preserved. Mhm.
John, did you have any questions? Did you have any questions, David?
The only thing would be, in addition to the staff comments on no impact to the wetlands, is just to use best management practices around the wetlands during construction so that any construction equipment or materials aren't finding their way into
Thank
the
you.
wetlands.
That's an excellent suggestion to be very well aware of. Yes, thank you.
Don? No? Okay. I will entertain a motion.
I'll move that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the variance application 011-22 to obtain a variance from the wetland setbacks for the expansion of a non-legal conforming dwelling, et cetera, as listed in the agenda and in the notice of public hearing. And that would be according to the findings of fact and the staff recommendations, all is detailed in the report.
Yep, I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Good luck on your project.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Enjoy the community, enjoy being here.
Next item is variance application 020-22 to obtain a variance from side yard setbacks to construct a 2-story dwelling using the existing non-conforming foundation within the Shoreland Residential Zoning District. The subject property is located at 26163 Birch Avenue, PID 280-20571 and 280-20570. Owner Gretchen Thies, applicant Vaughn Larson North Home Residential Design. Is the owner or applicant present? We'll just, Vaughn, you can come up and. All right, Bethany, your staff report.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting a variance from side yard setbacks to allow for the construction of a 2-story 2,555 square foot dwelling, 10.5 feet from the side yard property where 15 feet is required. The applicant would like to use the existing foundation from the existing legal non-conforming dwelling. And they are planning on building a second story. So the variance request is for the expansion of the existing due to going.
If you would like to make public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. Seeing none, I'll close public comments. Vaughn, you want to just go over kind of the plan?
Yeah, it's currently a Rambler. The main floor is very cramped. She would like to open up the main floor for more living space and relocate the bedrooms upstairs. So that would be the second story. The footprint doesn't need to get any bigger, so she's in the foundation is in good shape. She'd like to reuse that and save the money. You know, so stay that 10.5 feet then instead of the 15 from the side yard setback. Sorry. Okay. Would you like me to repeat that? Okay.
Just for everybody else.
Okay.
Gary, did you have any questions?
No, it was pretty clear what we saw in the field. It's looks like very little disturbance.
I had no questions either. It was pretty self-explanatory once we saw it. David? Don, did you have any feedback?
No, I didn't.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the variance application of 020-22 to obtain a variance from side yard setbacks to construct two-story dwelling, 26-163 Birch Avenue. All is recited in the notice of public hearing and staff report. And this would all be according to findings of fact and the staff recommendations, again, as recited in the staff report.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep, good luck on the project. Next item is a conditional use permit application 021-22 to operate a recreational rental business, Adventure Rentals, with outside storage of items for sale or rent within the Highway Business Zoning District. The subject property is located at 5541 Clark Lake Road, PID 281-40623 and 281-40622. Owner applicant Frank Sukup. A third. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, I'm Frank Sukup. I worked for Coat Family Destinations for the last 12 years, which is the management company for Grandview Lodge. A couple years ago, I got the opportunity to take over the snowmobile rental business from Jay and Melissa Cheney from Boats and Beyond. We've operated out of their shop, paying rent, and we've been looking for an opportunity to find property, hopefully on 371 and nearby the area, to run our own business out of. So the rent is actually going for property versus rent. So this made sense. Most of our guests come from Grandview or Breezy Point. Most of them stay on the trailway system. And this is a lot nicer because they don't have to cross 371 as well for safety reasons. So.
Thank you, Bethany, your staff report.
Yes. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to operate the recreational rental business with outside storage of items for sale or rent within the Highway Business Zoning District. The applicant is currently renting or planning to rent snowmobiles and street legal golf carts. Please note that the applicant will be updating their parking and display plan based on the feedback received from the Minnesota Department of Transportation.
If you would like to make public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. Hearing none, I'll close public comments. Gary.
No questions. Pretty clear cut.
The only question I had was displaying, so I'm assuming you're gonna have the golf carts displayed. You can't be in the roadway setback from 371, but did you have a plan on the number I'm assuming it's gonna rotate because you're doing a snowmobile business in the winter and then golf carts in the summertime. So
Yeah, so with the golf cart business, we only operate 15 of them, and most of them, like I spoke earlier, are at resort locations. They're not, people don't drive up to the shop to rent. They literally call us or go online. And so most of it becomes a delivery service or a pickup service at other resorts. So largely we're just in the Breezy Point area and this area because that's where they're permitted for. So that's really that portion on that. I don't, once in a while, we might pull one down if park it for a few hours next to the road if it deems necessary, but really just want to keep that all clean cut and just make sure that we have a larger appearance online. The snowmobile business, a little bit different, that we only have 12 sleds and then all the gear for. That's where the customer actually comes to the shop, gets fitted. We set them up with their trail. Sometimes they go out on Gull Lake and through the state forest as well, but we want to make sure they get there and they come back safely. So that's really the most in person is during the winter. And then we wouldn't be parking sleds out there, not in the winter, at least not as of right now.
John, did you have any questions?
No, sir.
Dave?
So you're not gonna park sleds out on 371?
No, actually, they don't want them out there at all. So we just assume since that's all septic system through there as well, trying to keep all the pressure and weight
Yeah,
off.
that's what I was kind of noticed when I was out there, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Parking.
definitely. You'd want to keep to the left, but because of the tree cover through there, it wouldn't really help us very much. The signage is the most important and the web presence.
That's all.
Question on the signing, what are you considering for signing?
Currently using the same exact signposts that are out there. It would be 10 feet high, meeting the requirements. As the marketing director for Grandview, I know the signage laws quite well with the city of Nisswa, so we would adhere to those, of course.
It's gonna be lit?
I currently is lit, yes. It was grandfathered.
Any further questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I would move that we approve the conditional use permit application 021-22 to obtain a conditional use permit to operate a recreational business 5541 Clark Lake Road in Nisswa, again, according to as described in the notice of public hearing, City of Nisswa, and according to the findings of fact and the recommendations by the staff as listed in the report.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. The next item is conditional use permit application 022-22 to obtain a conditional use permit for dirt materials moving of 30 cubic yards in the shoreline impact zone within the shoreline residential zoning district. The subject property is located at 4376 Mission Road, PID 283-40536. Applicant owner John and Shelley Thielen. Whatever you would like. You state your name.
Sure, John Thielen, 4376 Mission Road, Nisswa, Minnesota.
Yep, thank you. Bethany, your staff report.
The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for dirt and materials moving of 30 cubic yards within the shoreline impact zone. The request of 30 cubic yards of material and dirt moving is to facilitate the replacement of retaining walls, replace and slightly alter the location of the walk path and the stairs, and for the future construction of a water-oriented accessory structure. The applicant is also removing a non-conforming impervious surface patio close to the OHW and repairing any areas of riprap that need to be repaired. The requested project is for dirt and materials moving only and is not a request for the specific projects as outlined. Those requested projects are an allowed use within the Shoreland Residential District, and dirt moving with permitted structures are as well.
If you'd like to make public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. Hearing none, I'll close public comments. John, would you like to just give a brief overview of what your project is?
Sure. I got some wood steps going on lake. They're falling apart and some of the wood retaining walls are caving in and rotting out. And I'm worried about the shoreline or the bank kind of caving into the water. And so I've hired a guy that can make it solid and hold that back and, conform to everything. I just need to move a little bit of dirt to get that out of there and we'll get it back in there. But I would like to put stone steps going down so I never have to do this again.
Gary, do you have any questions?
Oh, no, I have no questions. We're only here to approve the
Dirt steps.
the dirt removal. No,
Yep.
the steps and everything else are, you don't need a permit.
Well, our ordinance basically allows whatever dirt moving with the approval of approved structure. By definition, the walk path and the steps are not an approved structure. Therefore, I believe it is the staff report exactly where it is in the ordinance that requires any dirt moving in the shoreland areas of more than 10 cubic yards in the shoreland impact zone has to be approved by CUP.
Just being there, I feel like it's probably a net improvement, just because we're removing impervious that's close to the lake, it's gonna improve. Keep your shoreline riprap in place, so it makes sense in my opinion. John,
Agree with you. No questions.
David,
Our comments are basically the same for a steep slope area this close to the lake with erosion control.
I didn't catch that. What's that?
Erosion control to be used during construction.
Sure.
We discussed that a little bit during the site visit. And then there's going to be removal of existing impervious, basically being balanced with what your new impervious is going to be.
Correct.
So that's the understanding.
Yep.
Okay, so I
Our
think-
plan is to get those paving stones out by the water and just kind of make that more like grass down there and stuff,
Mhm.
so the water can kind of retain there before it goes in the water. Yeah. The
Okay.
rainwater, whatever that might run off. Yeah.
I think this city staff had commented that the stormwater management plan and working with soil and water on that restoration plan would be a good idea, if not a requirement. So,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
One of the conditions is a stormwater management plan, including that shoreline buffer to be approved by city staff. So that is definitely something that we would be looking for. Mhm.
Don, did you have any questions?
No, the stormwater question has been answered, so.
I'll entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the conditional use permit application 022-22 to obtain a conditional use permit for dirt and materials moving to 30 cubic yards, John and Shelley Thielen owners, 4376 Mission Road, all according to the findings of fact in the staff report and the recommendations. So stated.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Good luck on the project. Next item is variance application 023-22 to allow for the construction of a 2,484 square foot dwelling and attached garage, driveway and patios within the Bluff and Bluff impact zone. The subject property is located on Dutchman's Bluff, PID 282-20510, owner applicant Holly Benson. And we have our Widseth representative. So you want to give your name and then your name after him.
Sure, Chad Connor.
Holly Benson.
Bethany, your staff report.
The applicant is requesting a variance to allow for the construction of a 2,484 square foot dwelling and attached garage, driveway and patios within a bluff and the bluff impact zone. Construction is not an allowed use in a bluff and the bluff impact zone without an approved variance. The subject property is located on Dutchman's Bluff.
If you would like to make a public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium. Hearing none, I'll close public comments. Commissioner member comments. Gary,
No, I have nothing specific at the moment.
Can you give us a brief overview of the scope and how, just looking at the landscape, how this will be feasible?
Absolutely. I'll try to be brief. It's been a pretty detailed process
Yes.
since we came in here with you guys last time. I appreciate the on-site visit. Initially, before the July meeting, we've came back, kind of gathered our design team here and addressed some of those concerns as we've moved forward with this design. The initial building was approximately 3,100 square feet. We've reduced the building size considerably back to about just shy of 2,400 square feet now. 1,700 of square feet of that approximately is the house size. So just to give you guys perspective on what size of this building is. We've had, we prepared our initial design submittal plans, submitted those for this meeting, received comments from both city staff and the DNR. The city staff comments were regarding additional riprap to dissipate energy from stormwater runoff, address stockpiles. This is all in your staff report, but addressed stockpiling of material during construction, making sure that we had erosion control in place, and addressing an encroaching shed. All of those have been addressed in our submittal plans. We resubmitted, I guess, just today as far as that goes. To address those, along with, we met last week on site, we received comment from the DNR as well. So the DNR staff or Representative Seth, I forget his last name, met with us on site last Wednesday with city staff. They had some initial concerns, which you guys have seen in your report, and maybe you've seen the additional comments regarding, again, riprap, a detail of outlets, adding native plantings and reduced turf coverage by increasing native plantings, adding bio rolls and vegetative plantings on the slopes. Wood chip berms in the drainage easement area is another thing we added. No vegetative removal over the steep slope, which was discussed and is not planned lakeward of the existing structure. A redirection of runoff was also discussed by gutters, so that's been addressed on the revised plan. Directing as much runoff as we can away from the bluff and resizing the stormwater ponds. We reduced the size of the swale, trying to, again, eliminate any concerns with erosion. We revised the fire pit area to act as a stormwater control feature that will dissipate runoff again. So a lot of those features, I mean, we've got the design team's been together. We've met, we've resubmitted plans, created items that address all of these concerns. Kind of feel that we're here with our best foot forward. It's a difficult situation. It's a platted lot that was created before, current ordinance requirements. So we wanted to come forward to this meeting tonight with a plan that has addressed all of the other things. Oh, and I guess the one last thing I did forget, one of the comments that came out of our on-site meeting was to work with soil and water staff. I did speak with the staff member obviously we met with the DNR Wednesday, spoke with the Soil and Water Conservation District staff on Thursday, sent an email of our site plan and our engineering plans. And they were encouraged that we were going to be working with them to develop not only a plan for the construction and the building around itself, but also some plans for some other drainage issues that are already there on site at the lakefront and then on the perimeters of the process or project area. So I guess that's kind of in a nutshell what it is. Maybe Holly wants to introduce herself and maybe tell you a little bit about the project too. So yeah.
Thank you. If I might, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about the history of this project. I currently reside in Houston, Texas, hopefully for not too much longer. This is very much my happy place. This is where I want to live out my life. I've been coming up here for 27 years. I raised my daughter coming up here in the summer. She's now 30, and she wants to raise her two sons coming up here in the summer. So the project that we're looking to do is to create something that can be passed down in the family for the generations. To tell you a little bit about myself, I'm actually a geologist, both by undergraduate and graduate degrees. I understand glacial sediment, I understand soils, I understand hydrology. I spent most of my young life volunteering at nature centers to help share that appreciation of the natural world with other people. I used to live on a ranch in New Mexico. We put the entire ranch into a conservation land trust and spent 15 years doing erosion control projects and land reclamation. So what I want to leave you with is that I am deeply committed to the natural world. And Rob can tell you the first time I brought him up there to look at the property, the first thing I said was, don't cut any trees. I'm crazy about trees. I love trees. I don't want to plant grass. That is not my goal. The year in New Mexico, all those years, we never planted one blade of lawn grass. We did plant a lot of natural grass to reclaim the land, but we didn't plant any lawn grass. We wanted to keep it natural. That's my vision for this project. I don't want a lawn. I want it natural. I don't want to cut any trees. And when I first came up there to look at the land, I'd actually had a realtor here looking for me for a 1940s cabin for 6 years. We finally gave up. And I'd been hiking up the hill from Grandview, which is where I've come in the summer, to Dutchman's Bluff and saw that piece of property and thought, okay, I think I'm going to try it. And I first of all got Winseth out there, Mark Halvern. He had me get Dave Rosinski out there to say, is this doable? And we thought it was doable. And so I bought the property. At that point in time, to design a house, my deed required me to get the approval of the Dutchman's Bluff community. That was a bit challenging because everyone named in the deed was now deceased. So we did our homework, figured out who could approve it. And David Anderholm, on behalf of the committee, did approve that structure. These guys have been working out there helping me design something. The reason we thought it was doable was I wanted to build something modest, of modest scale, not something ostentatious and large. As the process continued and we finally got to the point coming up to this hearing, you asked me to circulate the hearing notice to everyone in the community, which I did. My immediate neighbor to the right, Paul Sussman, did respond and say, may I see your plans? I said, absolutely. I shared them with him. He said, I like the project. It's not going to bother me. It's farther back from the bluff than I am. It's smaller than anything on either side of you. And he said he would write a note to the city. I don't know if he did that. He was unable to attend today because he was camping. But I've made a point to meet the neighbors. I've been compliant every step of the way, and I sincerely request your consideration to allow the variance.
Thank you. Gary, do you have any questions?
No, the whole thing has been planned very thoroughly, and my hat's off to the designers and you, Holly. There's nothing major at all questions that I've had that haven't been answered. Other than I got one minor thing, and I hate to overlook the obvious, but what's gonna happen to that shed that's over the line?
That's a movable shed. That
Yeah.
could probably be.
Is that
hooked up
yours
to-
or
It's the neighbors.
at the neighbors?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
the neighbors.
I was looking through all the plans to see if there's some notes whether or not that was permanent or what, so.
It's just a storage building that
That's
you would
fine.
buy and drop on the site, so.
The one question I had is the mitigation of some of the traffic concerns. I know the neighbor didn't think that was a big deal, but it is kind of narrow when you get up there, and we're going to have some construction vehicles and heavy equipment up there. Is there any plans to try to mitigate that so we're not blocking neighbors' usage of the road to have access in and out?
May I? One of the things that Paul said is he thought it would be great if we could do this over the fall and winter to get a lot of the heavy equipment up there. So we're hopeful of getting the variance so that we can actually start this fall when he's not up there and get a lot of things done by the spring.
Okay.
When he returns. I don't, Rob, do you have anything to add to that?
Rob Rosinski Construction. Yeah, same thing that Holly just spoke about. Not only for Paul on the end of the road, but from everybody from County Road 77 all the way back there to the top of the hill. To be able to do it in the off season, I guess, if you will, with the traffic, would be beneficial for everybody, I think, on the road. And not only for the traffic, but to be able to do the project this time of year is, I would consider it more of the dry season, for containing erosion and things like that, during the fall and right now, would be easier. But yeah, so, as far as the traffic and things like that. And the other thing is too, Paul did, when we met with him last week, I believe it was, he was very considerate about, allowing us to use his driveway because he's gone all winter in Arizona. He said, feel free to use my whole driveway here for parking and storage and whatever it might be. So that was very generous of him too. So.
John, did you have any questions? David?
Our reports with the packet, I think most of it's been discussed already related to the steep slopes, bluff zone, erosion control, good planning in that regard. This will be on city sewer, so it will be connected to city sewer. That our comment on that is simply to get notification before that connection is made so that the city can inspect that connection when it's made.
Don?
Well, since the last meeting, I understand you made a number of little changes. But the documents we have in front of us now, do they reflect those changes or are they someplace else?
The documents that were included probably in the initial packet have been modified since our meeting. The earliest the DNR could meet with us was last Wednesday, so we revised the plans and added additional detail that you probably, I'm assuming don't have in front of you.
This is that today.
Unless,
Yes, I received that.
We received it today.
oh, I'm sorry.
10 minutes before the
I was
start of the
hoping
meeting.
Bethany was gonna jump in there. So, yeah, then yes, you have all of the additional.
Because my
Items.
concern a lot of times is we have a lot of verbal stuff.
Right.
Go by us, but it only holds true if it's in writing. I want to make sure that we have the latest that we're approving. That's all.
Thank you.
In addition to that, we spoke on site with our site visit with the DNR. And one of the things that we discussed is that as a city staff, I'm going to recommend tonight that we add to the conditions already listed, that they work with soil and water with the vegetation plan. So if we could add that, Maggie, that would be great.
Do we need a motion to add that?
Just when you make your motion.
Let's make the motion to add. Okay. Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that this one, Planning and Zoning Board approve the variance application 023-22 to allow for construction of a 2,400 plus square foot dwelling and attached driveway, the garage and driveway with patios. Subject property is located at Dutchman's Bluff. Owner applicant Holly Benson, and all according to the findings of fact that are submitted in the report by the staff and the staff recommendations, which were 9 as printed, and then adding number 10, that the owners, contractors, and engineers work with the soil and water conservation people.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Good luck on the project. Next item is conditional use permit application 024-22 to allow for the construction of a 5,077 square foot dwelling, meeting all the setbacks within the Shoreline Residential Zoning District. The subject property is located on Nisswa Circle. PID 281-10524, owner Steve and Donna Wizak. And the applicant is Kevin Yeager. Say that right?
It's Jaeger.
Yeager.
Close.
I'll remember that one.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay, Bethany, your staff report.
The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to construct a 5,077 square foot dwelling within the Shoreline Residential Zoning District. Our ordinance requires a CUP for residential dwellings in excess of 4,500 square feet. And the subject property is located on Nisswa Circle.
If you would like to make public comment regarding this project, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. Seeing none, I'll close public comments. You want to give us just a brief overview of the project?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Just very quick, brief overview. The packet summarized the project quite well. So in effort to move expeditiously, I'll just say that my client purchased an extra parcel neighboring the original parcel to conjoin the two pieces together with the intent of reducing the impact. This gets us into full conformity on lake setbacks, side yard setbacks, road setbacks, as well as impervious. So beyond that, I have nothing to add beyond the packet. Thank you.
Gary, do you have any questions?
No, that's when we're out on the site looking at it, there's a lot of stakes out there, nothing really marked, but that's a lot of house. And it covers the property. It's gonna be a beautiful site. Haven't had a chance to study it in depth, but I don't have any questions right offhand.
Bethany, was there anything with the stormwater, and is there anything special for the stormwater if there's going to be a pool on the outside, if it's facing the lakewards side?
Staff has recommended that a stormwater management plan be approved and implemented completion of this project. As far as the pool, our ordinance requires nothing extraordinary. It's an accessory structure. But there are some wetlands along the fringe of the lake. So there are some concerns there. But with the pool, you need to, much like you would be at a garage, you would need to provide stormwater for that as well.
Okay. John? David?
Again, staff wrote in their report that the reason for this is the size of the building. And one of the requirements then is a water meter being required. This will be on its own well, and it'll be connected to city sewer. Same comment as the last application, notification, inspection of that connection. And that's all we have.
Understood. Thank you.
Don?
Question, you say you had the original lot and then you bought another one?
Yes.
Have those been combined?
Yes, sir. They've been combined with the help of legal and recorded with the county.
The impervious
As
surface.
Combined, it's technically a boundary adjustment, but two parcels sitting side by side, removed the line in the middle, divided the land between two neighbors, thus giving each of the three parcels a parcel and a half, turning three parcels into two.
This was done at Crow Wing County.
So
Yes.
they've reissued new PIDs for them, so.
I believe we have those in hand. Yes, I know that it's been recorded with the county.
This has already been recorded. It's already reflected in the GIS as
Okay.
well. Mhm.
I think my biggest concern was your impervious surface is really approaching the max in a hurry, so. You're gonna have to be, we're all gonna have to be real careful to make sure that you don't go over that, so.
Yeah, understood. As a condition of my work these days, a lot of my projects are pushing up against the impervious threshold, so stormwater runoff plans and best means and practices is something I deal with every single day, and I'll be in place with this one as well.
Understand, the numbers are there for a reason.
Mhm.
Was there any plans for the historic ice ridge and the current vegetation along the shoreline?
Not beyond what is in the current packet for staff recommendations.
Okay. John?
Good question. That we don't normally get this kind of thing. This is an outside pool.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
And I haven't looked at the ordinance because it hasn't come up before. Is there anything about enclosing the pool for safety reasons?
That I am not aware of, but I will look into that before we issue any permits for that accessory structure. We would look into.
Yeah, in my former life, in my former city, pools were a big thing and they required screening around them and lots of different things. And they cause quite a bit of contention, especially if it's open, and the kids can run over and jump in and animals. So they'd be very careful. So you're gonna check that out then?
I'll check that out. Nothing comes to mind as far as what is in our ordinance now, but that doesn't mean that there aren't state requirements or anything like that. Of course, they would be required to follow those.
We're not referring to a building here, we're referring to fencing or something, correct?
Just to keep the kids up from going around in the pool and having fun.
All right, if there's any other questions, comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the conditional use permit application 024-22 to allow the construction of a 5,077 square foot dwelling, meeting all the setbacks within the Shoreland Residential District, located at, well, the address isn't here, but looking for the address. Okay, PID number 28110524. All according to the findings of fact in the staff report and according to the staff recommendations, of which there are two. But with Don's comment, I will add number 3, and that the Bethany will look into whether or not any fencing or something or some kind of barrier is required around pools, so.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Good luck on the project. Next item is an ordinance amendment 025-22 to adopt an ordinance amendment modifying chapter 20, article 6 of the Nisswa Code of Ordinances regarding permit requirements for temporary signs in the central business, highway business, and commercial waterfront zoning districts within the city of Nisswa. Bethany.
All right, at the August 2nd Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission recommended that city staff amend the ordinance to not require a permit for temporary signs as long as the criteria set forth in section 20-482, temporary signs in commercial districts, is met. The proposed ordinance amendment is the first step in providing the correct information to help facilitate the ability for business owners to meet requirements of our ordinance as it relates to temporary signage.
If you would like to make public comment regarding this proposal, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. Hearing none, I'll close public comments. Do we have any questions?
None.
None. Don?
If this is going to the city council,
Yes. Yep. So this is a recommendation to the city council for approval.
Can I make one comment?
Yes.
Just that the temporary sign locations not obstruct views at intersections and corners. And that be reviewed.
Is there something in the original draft on?
We can't put a condition on that.
No.
Yeah, and so this amendment is just that temporary signs within the central business, highway business, and commercial waterfront zoning districts don't require a permit. That's all we're discussing tonight. As far as the requirements right now, they are set forth already in the ordinance. We're not proposing any changes at this time to that. So this is just to remove the requirement for permits.
And the city engineer's comments would be covered in.
Well, that would be the
in
next
the
step is to
requirements.
review
Okay.
what we require. Yeah.
I got you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sorry, jumped the gun.
Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion.
A move that we approve or recommended the city council that they approve ordinance amendment 025-22 to adopt an ordinance amendment modifying chapter 20, article 7 of the Nisswa Code of Ordinances regarding permit requirements for temporary signs. All according to, again, well, according to that, there is no staff report.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
I was waiting for Maggie's high sign over there, but I didn't see it. Okay.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, moving on to new business, final plat application 026-22 to subdivide 15.7 acres into 22 single-family residential lots within the urban residential zoning district. The subject property is located on County Road 18, PID 281-20690, 281-20684, 281-20683, and 281-20681. Applicant Thomas Dean, owner Terra Vista Developers Incorporated. I'd like to state your name for the record again.
Chad Connor with Woodseth.
Bethany, is there anything to add from the previous discussions?
Nothing to add from previous discussions, no.
Gary?
The project was submitted at the preliminary plat stage was so thorough that it didn't leave me with many questions or any at this point.
John? David?
It's all in the report or comments.
Don?
Who's going to be the owner of Outlot A? There's an Outlot A on here. It's an outlot, who's going to?
So outlot A is addressed as an encroachment by the neighbor to the north. So the current owner and developer have agreed to exchange that property and combine it with the owner to the north, being that his home is right there.
We also received a comment on Thursday, September 1st from the Crow Wing County Highway Department. It would have been included in information sent that has some questions concerning the Crow Wing County right-of-way Plat 8. There were some permanent drainage easements acquired that do not show up on the Nisswa Crossings plat. Don't know if Dave, you want to speak to that or?
If the county has drainage easements there of record that were recorded, they should be on plat.
We totally agree. There were just some easement lines that didn't get represented on there. They're out against County Road 18. They would have been caught during the plat check process too. So it was good that they responded, and we'll make sure we get those amended.
Any other questions, comments?
None.
Okay,
Nothing.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve or to recommend approval by the city council of final plat application 026-22. All is described in the agenda in the staff reports. And that'd be all according to the findings of fact and the staff recommendations that are all part of the report.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Next item is sketch plan review, Roy Ridge, Glenn Oscarson, and Pat Trottier.
First of all, I'm Pat Trotter of Stowmark Land Surveying in Pequot Lakes.
And I'm Glenn Oscarson. I'm one of the homeowners in the subdivision. And I was the original developer. but 38 years ago. And what we want to do is basically just clean up 40 years of stuff. We want to adjust some lots and rewrite our bylaws and all that sort of stuff. And that's going to require a replat. So I've got Pat here to explain exactly what we're going to do.
So originally in 1984, Roy Ridge subdivision created 7 residential lots, a common lot, and 3 outlots. Over the years, the buildings have expanded. They've all been permitted through the city. Some of these properties have been subject to a 99-year lease agreement to cover these buildings. And now as property and land gets more expensive, they want to fix the lot lines to contain all the improvements. So we do end up with 7 residential lots, 1 outlot still. And on the application, that's the original plat. I do have a preliminary plat, which will be in front of you next month. It shows us changes in the lot sizes for each individual lot. Generally speaking, on average, they gain about 1,000 square feet per lot. 7,000 square feet total of the common area is decreased. And we still end up with 24% impervious. We end up with 59% green space. And it seems to meet the intent of the ordinance. If Glenn has anything to offer,
Not other than that, all 7 of the people that are living there are in support of the project, of course.
On the drawing, it's a little difficult, but I've put in the original lot lines underneath. And the proposed lot lines are the dark and heavier lines on the outside.
Is there going to be a homeowners association then that manages
It
the
is-
comments?
It is subject to homeowners association with.
So this is basically to simplify title, the
Mhm.
replat. So
Right.
a lot of meets and bounds descriptions in there. So all of the owners will be signing the plat. Is that
There
correct?
will be, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll have
okay.
1 sheet of signatures and
Okay.
1 of graphics.
Yep. Just for a point of curiosity, that outlot D, it says is going to be is that part lot 2, what's lot 2 on the proposed lot 2? Was that the original house, and the outlot D that's on here was a garage for that house?
Didn't exist at
Yeah.
the time of the original plat.
Oh, it did.
Over
Okay.
time, the owner of lot 2 built the garage for his use.
Yeah.
It hasn't been really addressed in the covenants. In between lots 1 and 2, there was an outlot C that will go away in favor of this outlot D over the garage. That
Okay.
will be tied to lot 2 in the.
Right.
By
Yeah,
covenant.
that's the garage that belongs with the lot 2 house.
Yeah, it'll be tied by covenant,
Right.
not by creating a crazy lot to catch
Yeah.
that.
I got you.
John, do you have any questions? David?
No.
Everybody's a winner by clarifying titles.
Yeah.
So,
That's the plan.
okay.
Yeah. Did you have any questions for us?
We're on the agenda for next month, so we will see you then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. All right, old business, final plat application 018-22 to subdivide a 26.5 acre parcel into 6 single-family lots within the Shoreline Residential Zoning District. The subject property is located off of Upper Roy Lake Road, PID 281000660, between Roy and Ray Lakes. Owner applicant Jethro Carpenter, Team Investments, and Kevin is here. You give your name.
Kevin McCormick, Land Design Solutions, Cross Lake, Minnesota.
I am not sure if we want to have Bethany or the city attorney kind of address some of the outstanding questions that we had from our last table.
I have nothing further as far as the staff report.
Okay.
And the conditions there.
Josh, we tabled, excuse me, last meeting because there were some late breaking sort of concerns posed. Since then, the applicant has weighed in on those, I think satisfactorily. The WIDSEF team also weighed in. I don't disagree with any of those responses. We do have a couple outstanding issues which we were tackling last week, and now I'm reviewing revised deeds based on a conversation with the applicant and his representatives last week, received those over the weekend. So I'm looking at easement deeds and quitclaim deeds that are meant to fix some correct points made about lots and outlots lacking deed restrictions, that kind of thing. And so my preliminary review tells me those do comport with the preliminary plat conditions, but I still am reviewing those. So in time for council, if this is recommended for approval next week. The only other thing I wanted to mention is we did receive a current title opinion. That was an outstanding issue. The declaration, it looks like it's in good shape. So in short, I think the concerns that caused this to be tabled at the planning commission stage last time have now been addressed satisfactorily. I will confirm those deeds yet this week. If there are problems with those, I expect the applicant will do what's necessary to fix those. The applicant, in my opinion, has been responsive to all requests for things that needed to be fixed to this point.
Kevin, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to make sure everyone is aware that we did elect to do the independent plat check first, and it has been done. And in that process, many of the questions that were coming from the public and that type of thing were addressed specifically through the plat checking process, and they have been completed.
Okay. We have read through a lot of the public comments, but just because we've had, I mean, this has been a long journey. I think it would be appropriate to allow for public comment, even though we don't have to. If you have some comments that you would like to share, I'd like to give you the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's really important given where we are and where we've been. My name is Paul Rasmussen. I live at 25221 Bass Lake Road. Mr. President, you said that there were several, or there were changes to be made to the deed, quitclaim deed and so forth with respect to this project. Specifically, the quitclaim deed excludes block 2, lot 1 from the restrictions. Will that be correct?
Has been, yes.
It has been, okay. Well, it's important. It's really critical.
Yeah.
And I think we all remember just a few months ago, listening to the some concerns that come up, like, for example, Clark Lake, when things aren't done correctly and clearly.
Well, it's a fair point, and it
Oh,
got
good,
brought up
great.
last week.
But that's why I asked, because you didn't specifically say what would be changed. Also, will there be any changes with respect to the language used in those quitclaim deeds as far with respect to riparian lots versus and/or including restrictions regarding building docks and so forth as set forth in the city's conditions and recommendations?
This is responsive, I'm not sure, but the reference to the outlots, those outlots are tied to the individual lots in block, is it block 2?
Correct.
Yeah.
Block 2, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, and so there are deed restrictions about those riparian rights, and they're tied to those lots. They're not separate riparian rights by.
No,
virtue of
no,
those
but what I'm saying is that the deed, the quitclaim deed just referred to dockage, and the conditions of the staff clearly referred to riparian rights and dockage. Riparian rights, I think, is a broader, more expansive term than just dockage. I just think that the quitclaim deed should be clear and reflect the conditions as set forth by the staff.
Yeah, well,
So-
as I say, I'm still reviewing those. I
Great.
gave those preliminary review this morning. They certainly will be part of an updated city council packet for next week's consideration. And then if people think that there's language lacking at that point, that could be addressed at that point.
Great, good, thank you. Because issues are raised weeks ago, so it would have been nice to, it's, these issues just keep being pushed off next meeting. I do have a question regarding part of the land use requirements that I sent to the last meeting. And it really does refer to the city ordinance 447 with respect to the shape of this lot. Block 1, lot 1. I think you all know what I'm referring to if you have my letter, but it's the lot ends up being this strange shape of a lot. The rule requires that the lot line shall be substantially at right angles to straight road lines and shall not contain bends or jogs unless topographic conditions necessitate a different arrangement. This lot obviously contains jogs and is not compliant with the rule unless the applicant is stating that topographical conditions necessitate a different arrangement. The different arrangement is necessitated because the developer wants to include additional riparian lots, doesn't want to build a road to those lots. It's not necessitated by topographical conditions. If the existence of a bluff in a lot and a parcel allowed a developer to avoid the ordinance, it renders the ordinance obsolete. I don't think they're talking about, the ordinance doesn't refer to the necessity of a topographical condition caused by the developer, which I believe is what this is the situation here. So I just would like you to look at that very closely and convince yourself that that is consistent with the ordinance. And that's all I've asked from the very beginning of this whole process, is that these developments, that these lots conform to the ordinance. We'll wait to see what other changes are made, but there were also questions regarding the location of Bass Lake Road and not having been included in the plat. And that really is important for the city, because if you are plan on expanding Bass Lake Road in the future, I assume you do that from its current location. And that really impacts the amount of land you will need to buy and acquire in the future. So if the easement for the future road doesn't correspond to the existing road, the amount of land you have to acquire in the future is just going to be both from the future owners and the existing, the amount of land would be significantly different. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your patience going through these issues. They're important. That's why I guess we're all here, to make sure that we comply with the city ordinances. Thank you.
Before we do another, hold on, can you, no, I've read through the emails when we were talking about the kind of the weird shape. Can you quick address that before we have more comments?
Yeah, I think I would just refer back to the Widseth team's response to that, and I agree with it. It's been kind of a consistent response to this. These sorts of lots sometimes become necessary in platting. They're not illegal in the ordinance, and they're not super uncommon. And so I would just refer back to Widseth's comment, which I agree with, which is sometimes these things are necessary in platting and they're not in non-conformance with our ordinance.
Kevin, can you shed some light on why it was jogged that way?
Well, as Widseth and Mr. Pearson said, that it meets the intent of the ordinance. The ordinance also allows flag lots, which lot 1, block 1 really represents. That was also at the discretion of the city. That was how they wanted this to appear, so they could do a future roadway. The shape of the lot also comes about by the future roadway easement that the city is imposing on the property. They wanted the road within certain limits of percentage of grade. We're able to achieve that, but that's where the topographic conditions now make the change without taking the property owner's rights to create a lot. So it was a good dance. It was a balance, I should say, not dance. It was a good balance throughout the process.
Brad Berkland, 924 Bass Lake Road. The first thing we've all invested quite a bit of time into this. You guys invest this sort of time with many, many projects. And I do think it's a shame that you're not going to be able to weigh in on the specific details of these of the declaration, of the deed restriction, of the specific easement. These details are going to you're not going to have any say, as the city council will be voting on this in 2 weeks. So the details are going to get, figured out over the next 2 weeks without any even you won't even be able to view them with, have any comment. The planning, we're skipping over the planning commission. I don't think that's right. I agree that this has gone on. It's been such a, this is an outlier lot. These don't happen. I mean, this is a once in a 25 year lot that has all these specific odd issues in any lake that borders a general development lake. I think we should get the details right, you know. Who knows, maybe this plat will be studied by the University of Minnesota in their surveying course. I don't know, but I would have loved to see the details, and I also would have loved the planning commission to be able to weigh in on those exact details. Another question, boardwalks, would those be allowed on the outlots A through D? So could, above the OHW, could those owners potentially put in boardwalks over the wetlands and have put a shore station in on Bass or Ray Lake and not have dockage, but still have right to boating? My perspective was when the planning commission put in those conditions, all the riparian rights were going to be shifted over to Roy Lake. There's also a very minor detail, but people look at these plats later on and I've compared different ones for Roy Lake. There's the water, the elevation for the water on the two different lakes, Ray Lake and Roy Lake, are different. One of them has the vertical datum listed, the other one does not. Also, the normal pool elevation, the high water level marks are inconsistent with other plats that have been done on Roy Lake in the area. I know that the highest known elevation is a Gull Lake highest known elevation, and that is in the NGVD 29 datum. But I wish we could get that clear, because sometimes these plats are used as precedents for the next ones that come up, and I would love to see those details exactly correct. And maybe I'm being too whatever detailed about that. I think that's it. Thank you. And I do appreciate all the time that you guys have given us over the last year and a half. Thank you.
So one of the questions was boardwalks. Do we have a clarification on the boardwalks?
Not trying to sidestep this to say it's hard to speculate about an application that could be made in the future and what a zoning regulation might be at that point. So I don't know if it's something we can answer here.
Are we looking at kind of our board? I mean, we're talking about doing a boardwalk ordinance. Do you know where we're at with that?
Well, that is next on our agenda, so we'll be discussing that and our next steps moving forward with that. Right now, you know, I haven't, I'm not as familiar with the deed restrictions as far as the docking and the outlots and those kind of things, and what would be required as far as permitting any structures on that in the future.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Gary, do you have any questions?
No, and to come back to some of the comments, Mr. Berkland, for instance, we are, the planning commission is an advisory body, so for us to be dealing with every single detail that leads up to these subdivisions or projects that are actually approved and denied by the planning or by the city council, our job is simply to advise them of what we see, and I think we've done a job on this thing for a long time. And we've been providing a lot of information to the council right along, and it's really going to be up to them to make the final decision, you know, yay or nay. So just to answer that one. Now, remember at the preliminary plat, and I was looking through the findings of fact and the recommendations, and I remember on the preliminary plat, it was intended that there's no, the lots that lots on 1, 2, 3, and 4 of block 2 were not to have any driveway access to Bass Lake Road. And they were not to be allowed any dockage along Roy Lake. And I was just scanning all of the staff recommendations and the conditions, and I don't see those. So I'm probably just missed them.
Condition number 3 is the alternative access on Roy Lake is only for lots 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes on to say how docking facilities, all docks and lifts must be stored, where direct riparian access is not feasible. And then there was an addition after that preliminary plat, and this is condition number 12, deeded restriction put on lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 in block 2, stating that no dockage is to be allowed on Bass Ray Lake, a maximum of 12 mooring slips.
Okay, I missed it. Just making sure the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed.
Understood, absolutely.
John? David?
No further comments.
Don?
It's been a long, torturous road.
I'm just sorry that we had to be the last application of the night, or well, second to last. So you had to sit through that whole thing. You know, I kind of weighing back and forth. I get the shape of the lot argument that does make sense when you just look at it. For me, it was kind of looking at the totality of the project. It's 26.5 acres and we're talking about 6 single family lots. So there's give and take with where the future road might be and where the current road is. So in terms of Kevin, when you wrote it up, there's not a whole lot you can do when you're giving these conditions from the city that you have to make way for this road and then the current road. So I kind of understand where that lot design was coming from. So I mean, I went back and forth with it, but that's what I came to. I mean, just based on the totality of that project, it would make sense. Can you comment any further on that, or do you have any questions for us?
No, I do not. And that's exactly where we came, you know, how we got to this point. So I appreciate that.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that final plat application 018-22 Roy's Landing as described in or be recommended to the city council for approval. And all is described in the findings of fact in the staff report and the recommendations accordingly.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the shoreline ordinance report and discussion with Chris Pence.
Good evening. That was a fun night, huh?
Good evening. Been waiting a while?
No, not at all. Betsy, I don't know, is there any interruption you want to give with this or?
Yeah. Chris Pence submitted his report and analysis on August 7th concerning the shoreline ordinance review he conducted. You've all had a chance to look over these reports and documents in preparation for discussion on the analysis and proposed actions. The goal for tonight would be to have a recommendation for city council.
Reading through it was quite thorough. So that was nice.
Were there any questions, anything that stuck out in particular that were, you know, something that was of a concern or of an issue or maybe a different direction that you maybe wanted to go or?
There seemed that there was a lot of redundancy, so you cleared up a lot of the redundancy in the ordinance, which is the main thing.
Correct. Yep. Redundancy and clarity. I was actually just talking to somebody in the hallway and they were talking about how they had gotten told verbally they would be able to get a permit. Staff had changed and then the other new person had a different view. And that's that regulatory certainty that I talked about last time, that
it shouldn't matter who you talk to, it should just be what the rules say. And so I think that was something that we can really clarify and get a little bit more clarity and brevity, to be honest, in the ordinance. So it should be easy to read and easy to understand and enforce. So
Unfortunately, that's been going on from time to time, but I think what you're doing here, it's a no nonsense approach to the ordinance. And I think everybody that's involved, whether it's the public or staff or anybody, that's involved in land development is going to appreciate.
I hope so.
Knowing that the answers are there when you go to it. And I know it'll especially make the staff's job easier. So I got one thing for you, one question.
Yeah, absolutely.
The map, that's this one that's covered.
Yep.
It's probably a minor thing, but I noticed that up where along County Road 13, there west or east of 371, it shows Fish Trap Lake.
Yep.
Fish Trap Lake is actually, there is some slough, some wetland back in there. So, but the bulk of the open water is over to the east further. And it sits between what's shown as Fish Trap Lake and Clark Lake.
Okay.
There's about 50 acres of open water right there, and there's our townhouses sit right on the west shore of that. So it's just a matter of updating the map.
Yeah, I'd have to talk. We'd have to, this is in the GIS system.
Yeah.
And I just printed it off of there. I'm not smart enough to make maps. I write ordinances, I'm
No,
not a
if we're-
cartographer. So
If we're
I
talking
know-
shoreland ordinances, it's nice to know there's water there. So it's
absolutely, for sure. As we go forward, I guess the proposal that I would have would be that if, once the council, if they decided what they wanted, if they wanted me to proceed, I just would start drafting immediately, getting to work, and then I would come and see you every month. So I come back to the October meeting, your November meeting, your December meeting, and by your January meeting, we should have an ordinance ready to take to the council. And I want it done it seems quick maybe, but from a staff perspective, you want this done while you're still in the winter season when it's not busy. So you can get ready to administer, implement, make some modifications to applications potentially in that. You don't want to have it done by May when people are knocking on the door and you're just getting a new ordinance. It'll be a chance for the city to maybe, get out the word about some different changes in that. So I think, I do think 4 months, getting you a draft that can be with a public hearing before you guys to make a recommendation to council. I think that can happen coming up here in January or February. Probably February would be the latest, but I would think we could try for January.
explain the process for this. Is this something that just comes back and forth between Chris Pence and the planning commission as we go through this? And then we make a recommendation to the council at some point, once we've seen all of the detail?
My plan would be to get to work on this now and then, a week before the meeting to send Bethany a draft. You guys will get a copy of it. And then we can just sit and chat. You can say, like that, don't like that. I don't know what that means. Clarify that. Then we'll know at the end that we're pretty well set with that part.
Yeah.
Then we'll move on to the other parts. We're going to break it up into 4 chunks. And we'll just work on those 4 chunks and we'll just systematically go from beginning to end through the
Yeah,
ordinance.
so I just saw in one of our emails between staff and us, I saw something in there that I probably misread it, but it looked like we're gonna come to some kind of agreement tonight and pass this on to the council in September. And I thought, Lord, that's.
I'm not ready for that.
No, I don't think any of us are.
We'll be here late tonight if that's.
The recommendation for this evening to go to city council will be the recommendation to have him begin work.
Just for the board, for the council to authorize me to
Yep.
start.
Right, okay.
Yep.
Okay. There's a lot of definitions that are listed.
Yeah.
Probably a few that might get added. I assume that you have access to most of these definitions based on our current ordinance. We can take some of them out and.
Yep,
and-
no, I
And
have
other
access.
places they're
I
used.
do have some access to that.
Yeah.
With what I'm proposing now, I think trying to fix all the definitions at this point with the rest of the ordinance would be a challenge.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a phase 2 would be to come back and then modify the definitions, because to do all that at once, it gets to be a little overwhelming, and I've found success when you start things in chunks and then
Right.
you just break it up in a little bit of chunks here and there, and it becomes much more easy to digest, and
Yeah.
it's easier for the public to track because it's not so.
All right.
If I could say one thing about the county ordinance, we did the whole thing at once, and it turned out okay, but there was a lot of questions from the public just because that's a lot of ordinance to read and try to understand what was being changed. So if we can do it in smaller pieces, I think it makes sense.
Not to get into too much details, but we did address it a little bit with boardwalks. Personally, do you have any opinion
I do.
on what that should look like instead of going through committees like they're doing in Crow Wing County?
I had it. Okay, so I'm gonna put on my work cap for just 1 second.
Okay, good.
I'm, so you have the Wetland Conservation Act, and that's Minnesota Rules 8420. And if you look at the definition of what is considered fill, wetland fill, it goes through, you know, anything that goes in a wetland from dirt, it can be wood chips, all that kind of stuff. What isn't considered fill is posted pilings when using those to access lake for boating, to get access to the lake. It is clearly spelled out in Minnesota rule that a boardwalk on posted piling is not considered fill. Period. And so that is the way to get out to a lake across lots where you can't get out there because there's a little bit of a wet area out front. What we can do to answer some of the questions that have been brought up by some of these situations, and I think they could have been handled possibly differently, but it does bring to light some of the things, is that we clarify how wide should we have it? 6 feet. How are they built? Perpendicular to the lake. They don't get to do any of this stuff. They don't get to encroach on your neighbor's riparian rights. So you don't get to build a boardwalk that goes out in front of the guy's house. You're gonna have these boardwalks be set back 10 feet from property lines. And then the limit of your jurisdiction is at the OHW. Beyond that, if there needs to be more boardwalk built to maybe get out to open water, that's a DNR issue, and we're gonna let them take care of that. So we're gonna take care of what we handle, and we're not gonna get, the old proverbial, we're gonna stay in our sandbox, and we're gonna make sure that we define everybody's sandbox so that we're staying where we should be, kind of watch your own bobber mentality. So that is, to be honest, it's that simple. It is really that simple.
In addition to the boardwalk, we can also limit the number of access or the number of boardwalks, correct? For
Yep.
lake access?
Yeah, absolutely. We can clarify all that as, numbers and, absolutely. We can clarify, but just from the physical, how do you do it? That's how you do it. It's short and sweet, and that way nobody's saying they can build one parallel to the lake, we don't want that. We just want it out there, and with the permit and being installed by, professional people who know what they're doing, so they do it right. Because the truth is, if you've ever tried to build a boardwalk, sometimes you have to take a post and put it down a little bit to hit sand. Because if you don't, she's just gonna, you see boardwalks when you go out now and they're all jacked up. So they weren't put in right. You gotta get the post down to sand. And if you rest stuff on top, technically, let's say you wanted to put like a dock out with dock feet on top of wetland to get out to it, that maybe because it's a hard enough wetland to get out, which is very rare, it's considered fill. That's considered wetland fill because it's sitting on top of the wetland. We would say, the boardwalk's got to be at least a foot above because you want sunlight to get underneath there so that we're not eliminating any of the plants and the, plant communities and ecology because of it. So, there are some very clear things we can put in place that would be easily enforceable by staff to clarify how do we build boardwalks in the city of Nisswa. And personally, I think you'll be a leader in that. And I think others would be following suit, because I do think it's that simple.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, I was reading about a boardwalk, was more like a dock going out, but it was a boardwalk.
Yep.
Through wetland.
Yep.
And it was a huge thing. It was wide. It was like 8 feet wide, and it was made out of big timbers, and this thing had, had timbers that were 8, 10, 12 inches supporting this
Yep.
walkway or dock, whatever you wanted to call it.
Right.
But those were sitting on wood slabs.
Yeah.
So they weren't down in the,
no-no.
in the substrata.
That's a no-no. That would be considered.
So that'd be considered fill.
That would be considered fill. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be considered fill.
In fact,
and-
where I saw it was in the Conservation Volunteer.
Yeah, and the flip side of that
6-8
coin,
months ago.
the flip side of that coin is that, let's say somebody wants access and you say, well, boardwalks aren't allowed. Okay, so to fill wetlands, you have to go through a process called sequencing. And the first
Right.
step you have to do is to identify other options to instead of one is always can be been determined in law, do nothing. Well, if you're saying they can't do a boardwalk, well, at that point, they can come in and say, now the next step is to minimize how small do I have to make it? And then they buy wetland credits. And they could fill dirt in that wetland and get access to the lake. We don't want that. That harms the wetland and harms the ecology of the lake.
Right.
So.
I just
so-
remember reading that. That's
Yep,
why I throw it out and ask the
absolutely.
question because I
Yeah,
thought
we
that's
want this,
strange.
allowing boardwalks will protect the ecology of the lake and of that wetland.
I have a follow-up on that. If, in terms of like wetlands, sometimes the bottom till you get to sand can be a long ways.
It can be, and so it's a great question, and truth be told, there are spots where boardwalks just don't work because you feel like you're pounding a post down to, you know, however far it gets, so sometimes a boardwalk might not work, and so it also gets back to the point, and this is, I've always been a big believer in when people are acquiring and selling property, they need to know what they want to do. I want to have a beach, well, they should buy a property with a beach. I want a spot that's got nice level access to the lake. Well, that's what you should buy. But they buy these lots that have these wetland fringe, and then they want them to be like the lots that are solid, or that are good, firm, no wetland frontage. There's a reason that those are already developed, and there's a reason why these aren't. And so we can't have, when you buy those lots, you can't have everything that maybe your neighbor has down the shoreline, because their lot is just characteristics, the physical characteristics of that lot is just different. And so, you know, I don't think there would ever be a time when the city would need to reject a boardwalk permit for that reason. But, you know, the contractor might go back to the homeowner and say, I've pounded in a lot of posts and I'm just getting muck. This might not work. So that's when they might go to a area marina and rent a dock slip, and that's where they need to get access to the water in those situations.
Any other questions, comments? Sure.
This sounds great. This sounds great, and obviously, I think a lot of work needs to be done on the statute. So I really applaud the effort and your work to be done. Just a couple of thoughts I had while sitting here. I think it's really important before an organization goes through such a process, as they set out their goals and objectives at the project. So it's very clear to everybody involved in the project and all the citizens to know what you hope to accomplish. More importantly, what you're not going to accomplish, what's not going to be included. Also, secondly, to set forth your guiding principles. What are the guiding principles as you're going to refer to when you're making decisions with respect to what is included, and then how you're going to answer the questions. The city of Nisswa has a comprehensive plan, sets forth significant goals with respect to the environment and so forth. I think during this process of drafting and approving, those should be front and center, so all people can refer to those and be assured that the decisions that are being made in the context and being guided by by certain principles. But thank you for your efforts.
Can I answer that question? Sure. I already did that. Okay, I gave them a report. They asked, I've been working on this report since May, and I submitted it to the board in August, so I'm sure that Bethany would be more than happy to give you a copy.
It is online.
And, you know, be happy to hear your feedback or thoughts you might have. That'd be great, so absolutely.
I have a quick comment and a question. Dave Anderson, 920 Bass Lake Road in Lake Shore. First of all, this is important work you're doing. Thank you so much for putting the time in to make this all come together. And one of the questions I have is, are you working with the Army Corps of Engineers? Because they do have a say on what happens on the slate chain. As far as fill and so forth, they definitely have.
Right. We would, as we were going through in the ordinance revisions, they would always be included for comment and making sure that, yeah, so
Right.
so the way that it works, you typically draft an ordinance and, you know, get feedback from the planning commission, and then it goes up for a certain comment period.
Mhm.
And we'd be asking Army Corps, DNR, lake associations, anybody who thinks they would have any interest, that they'll be given plenty of time to
Right.
feedback. The council, or I mean, the commission has to hold a public hearing like this tonight for all the applications. But I think there'll be plenty of touch points for you to be able to weigh in and do that. And I think, you know, if you keep in touch with the commission and you kind of get some updates on what I'm working on, you'll get a little bit of, you know, I'll keep working on the ordinance, then just give them an update every month as to where I'm at. And you should be able to have access to that.
And also very impressed with your willingness to work with the lake associations. There's a lot of people out there that don't know a lot about the lakes and care a great deal about how they're maintained and protected. So thank you for that.
But there will be discussion at all of our planning, at our meetings for the next three or 4 months. So I mean, there'll be plenty of opportunity to come to every,
I
you know,
don't
every
run
meeting.
away from people. So bring your comments.
Yeah.
We'll take them all and these guys get to make a recommendation and the council will make the final decision. So I think it's a great process. So.
Good. Thank you.
What is it you want from us?
I would like to know if you would like to recommend to the city council that we have Chris Pence do what he proposes in the report.
Motion is required.
Form of a motion?
Mhm.
Okay. I'll move that the planning commission recommend to the city council that we continue our construction of the shoreline ordinance and to keep Mr. Chris Pence in our employ and move ahead with this and look for a 3 or 4 month conclusion if we can do it.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Well, as the saying goes, you're stuck with me now for a few months, but
All right.
we'll make it work, I promise.
All right.
So.
Glad you're working. The price of groceries is going
Yeah, I
up.
appreciate it. I'm looking forward to
All right, next item is the city planners report and the Crow Wing County short-term rental revisions.
Yeah, we just recently got this, so I haven't had a lot of time to go through it. This came out on August 29th, 2022. The Crow Wing County is looking for public comment on the proposed revisions to the short-term rental ordinance. The deadlines for that are September 29th at 5 p.m. So I wanted to make sure we got this to you to review and see if there's any public comment that you feel we as a city should give to Crow Wing County. And if the short-term rental ordinance is meeting the needs of the city of Nisswa.
Has there been any feedback from people that have had rentals next to them and?
None that I have heard of,
or
no,
peop- Okay,
no. There is a map on the Crow Wing County website. You can see how many properties that are currently licensed in the city of Nisswa.
where do you find that?
You can find it right on the GIS. This is the short-term rental information page on the Crow Wing County website. This is where you would go to get your licensing. The application is right on here. Gives information on complaints, appeals, but this map right here are all of the properties that currently are licensed in Crow Wing County. You can zoom in on Nisswa. I did a quick count. We're looking at about 30-ish. You can click on it. Gives the information, the emergency contact phone number.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any negative comments about Crow Wing County administering our short-term rental ordinance. Just wanted to let you know that this is out for public comment, and if within the next couple weeks you have any information or you have any comment that you feel is important, you can reach out.
No, without comment, and seems like we've done the right thing. So,
They're not changing a lot, no. Other than that, we still have planning commission vacancies, so we're still working to fill those. We've reached out on social media, in the paper. We have postings here at City Hall. I am hopeful that we will fill those positions soon.
we have many more meetings with 3 and 4 inch packets.
Well,
It's gonna scare everybody away
This
that
was-
may be interested. So,
this was a long meeting. There was a lot of agenda items, but next month there's one currently.
Yeah.
For
Like I mentioned before, the packet was like picking up a phone book out there.
Did you have any ideas on what else we could possibly do to increase interest? Money, yeah.
Incentives.
$1,000 a month to work.
None that I can think of right now.
You know, unfortunately, it's totally relative to whether to volunteering by people, which is going down the tubes, and it is with all fraternal organizations and, you know, and volunteer organizations. It's hard to, it's impossible to get volunteers to do things anymore. Our townhouse association is the same way, and you get forced into hiring professional management to make up for the difference. And, you know, the scary thing about city of Nisswa is that, or any city, is if our planning commission ceases to operate because of lack of staffing and lack of volunteers, it's gonna end up being taken over by the Crow Wing County. And that's not good. Nothing against Crow Wing County, but I don't think it's good for Nisswa, so.
Right.
but I don't know what to do about it. I've talked to several people and they say, what's the pay? And I said, there isn't any pay to speak of. Oh, wow, I don't think so. They were the wrong people to talk to, I guess, to begin with, so.
I've spoken with
Gotta
a
get out
few
of the
nonprofits.
bars.
That's that.
You have to get out of the box.
Yeah, I can do.
I've spoken with a few nonprofits that rely heavily on volunteers, and it seems that after COVID, it has been a significant decrease in volunteers.
Well, when I started, there was, I mean, it was, the whole table was filled. So I don't know.
Well, I'm hoping as things slow down a little bit, we can focus on the ordinance a lot more. We can focus on those planning commission vacancies and get those filled.
Yeah, I think the only concern is, I mean, we always have a city council member here, but we're running the risk of, you know, if we have two of us and we have to have it, and then it's pushed off. At what point would the city, this is kind of a question for Don. I mean, at what point would the city council say, you know, if we can't get anybody to do it, then we're just not gonna do it? I mean, at what point do you get to that?
I think you.
They would do that, would they?
You're not gonna do that. But there may be some point, if you really can't find enough people that you can combine it with the city council, make the city council planning commission.
Yeah.
That's probably not the best way to do it, but it's possible.
It's the same.
Either that or you have to be nicer to people, that's all.
Wow. Okay, permits,
13 permits approved since this packet went out. There's been a few more, but not too many.
Housing market is coming apart across the nation now, starting with the West Coast, so it's gonna slow down here too. The bubble's gonna deflate.
Well, this month doesn't show any slowing down on our end, so.
okay, any other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.